Alicia Wynn. I'm an applied cultural anthropologist. For those who don't know, anthropology is the study of human beings. There are 4 subfields of anthropology. There's cultural, there's linguistics, language, archaeology, and biological anthropology. I am a professor at Palm Beach Atlantic University in the School of Ministry and Intercultural Studies, where I teach cultural anthropology. If you're interested more in that, I'll tell you about it. But I also am the founder and the owner of Consider the Culture. It is a consulting company where we do education, cultural education, as well as community engagement. So this is an honor. I'd like to thank ARLIC and all the members of ARLIC for inviting me and to MC this prestigious and wonderful event where we recognize our history and culture, and locally, our history and culture of our community. And so we're going to get started. Just first, before we get started, I'm going to make a couple of announcements. Again, just for those who don't know, just a reminder, please, for the exhibit, no pictures of the exhibit. If you have any questions, please see Ms. Ann, and she'll be happy to answer that, or any member of ARLIC. Also, be mindful of your social distancing. And then also, as far as COVID, please be aware and reminder of the restrictions in order to ensure everyone's safety while viewing the exhibit. Please observe 6 feet distancing in compliance with the City of West Palm Beach. So please keep that in mind. So we're going to get started because this is a celebration. This is a celebration of our life, history. It's really nice to see those. I see some very familiar faces, some faces I went to school with at Bethune.
Yes,
good to see you no more. Go Wildcats. All right, and again, we're going to get started. So first, we're going to have our welcome from Ms. Ann Nelson, who's the president of ARLIC. So let's give it up for Ms. Ann Nelson.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And welcome. You all look wonderful, as usual, and we're grateful you chose to share this afternoon with us. Black History was initiated by Dr. Carter G. Woodson the second week in February in 1926. This year, the 96th celebration of what has become Black History Month. The fact that Black history is celebrated throughout the world in February indicates how important the role of African Americans were and are in the development of American history. This celebration provides an opportunity for Black American and other ethnic groups to appreciate African Americans' contributions in all human endeavors to our country and to the world. We know the time is right for our local history and contributions to be visible in our eyes as well as the public. To see and hear our stories interpreted by us, especially for our youth, so they can become educated and empowered to feel proud of who they are and where they came from. Because physical evidence of our history makes denial of it difficult to sustain. We owe it to ourselves and to our ancestors and future generations to preserve and share our stories as part of the full American story. It means amplifying the voices of those who historically have been silenced. We all have stories that need to be told. I believe our young people need to see themselves, their history, and their potentials. ARLIC's vision is to establish a one-of-a-kind library and museum of Palm Beach County's rich and unique Black experiences, from its earliest history of the Black Maroon Seminoles, who were exiles from slavery in South Florida as far back as the 17th century, and the Sticks to the present and into the future. In fact, Palm Beach County's history is not accurate without African American experiences and contributions to its development. We invite you to join us and help build a legacy here in Palm Beach County for future generations. There is much work to be done, collecting, interpreting, promoting, and exhibiting source material that documents our struggles and achievement before they are lost forever. You have in the bag that you received at the door applications, brochures, evaluation forms that we ask you to fill out before you leave, and donation envelopes. This is a free event, but we accept donations which allow us to provide educational programs and exhibits to educate our youth and enlighten citizens of Palm Beach County about our history. Celebrating and observing this month is our way of conveying our respect to African Americans. Let us never forget the brave men and women who fought and resisted oppression, whose shoulders you and I are able to stand on today. Happy Black History Day, and welcome everyone as we pay respect and tribute to African Americans and look forward to a brighter world for future generations. Again, welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Thank you, Ms. Nelson, for all the hard work. I've had the pleasure of knowing Ms. Nelson. She went to school with my parents, so I have to know Ms. Nelson. And all the work that she has done and that Arlick is doing. This is just an introduction to what we're about to experience today in honor of Black History Month. And so now we're going to have our invocation by Pastor Samuel St. Fleur, who's from the Christ Family Worship Center. Pastor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So as we gather today to have a focused time of celebration in the spirit of reclaiming our past and rebuilding our future, I'm going to ask that you would join me in a word of prayer. Our God and our Father, we give you thanks and honor today. You are the God whose eyes are open to all the ways of men and women. We acknowledge your presence as we gather in celebration of the legacy and history of Black and brown people of African descent and heritage. Thank you, God, for your faithfulness, and thank you for being with our ancestors on whose shoulders we all stand today. You were the God of their weary years, and you were the God of their silent tears, and you are the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So grant us, O God, this day the same kind of enduring faith as those of whom this world is not worthy. Continue, Lord, to lead us by your light. Keep us forever in the path of righteousness for your name's sake. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And as we are continue in our prayers and remembering even families of those who've lost loved ones, and just even recently passed, there are many that's gone on before us who are pioneers in fighting to preserve our history and our culture. And just as we remember the late Preston Tillman, the late Ineria Hutnell, the late Mr. Henry McNish, and just recently the late Ms. Everett Clark. So please remember those families, and as we are continuing our prayers for those we lost who fought a good fight, and to see what you see today is because of the work that they and many others have been doing. And so now we will have a selection by the Russell family, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And so I ask you to please stand during our Black National Anthem, please. Ms. Lockhart? Ms. Lockhart, will you lead?
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on to victory is won. Stormy the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, built in the days when unborn had died, and in the steady beat kept not our weary to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading the path through the Lord of the out from the gloomy past till now we stand where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of the weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on our way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in thy path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world we forget thee.
education before introduction. I mean, after the introduction. Ms. Ferguson.
Good afternoon. There is a quote from Robert A. Heinlein that states, "A generation which ignores history has no past and no future." Our speaker this afternoon is in a position to see that this generation does not ignore our history, therefore ensuring that there will be a future. Our speaker has been an educator for over 14 years. He attended Florida Atlantic University, where he majored in history and earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree. He later completed his graduate studies at the University of West Florida. At the present time, he serves as the manager of the Office of African American, Latino, Holocaust, and Gender Studies for the School District of Palm Beach County. This office has been in existence for 26 years, with a major focus on providing best teaching practices for students of color and the development of culturally responsive curriculum. Our speaker and his team have been instrumental in supporting schools to create environments that are conducive to the academic success of Black students. His work has served to eliminate systemic barriers and interrupt practices rooted in racism at various levels, including the classroom, the school district, and the community. During his tenure in Palm Beach County School District, there are several accomplishments of which our speaker is very proud. One is the authoring of the district's policy on equity and access. This policy legally binds the school district to address systemic deficiencies that create gaps in academic achievement. He has also designed a series of statewide secondary level courses that highlight the historical contributions and experiences of African diasporic people, which include great men and women of color who shaped world history, examining the African American experience in the 20th century through music and visual arts, exploring hip hop as literature and the history and contribution of Haiti in a global context. Legacy Magazine has named him one of South Florida's top Black educators. His work has also been featured in the Journal of Literacy and Innovation, Rethinking Literacy Instruction. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, after the presentation from Faith Place Center, our speaker for this afternoon, Mr. Brian Knowles, will come before you as we move towards reclaiming our past and rebuilding our future.
So we'll have next, Faith Place Center, Arts and Education.
my event, this is not my event, this is something that belongs to Garlic. So I'm honored and I'm humbled to be part of their program. As I represent the school district of Palm Beach County, again, as in the Office of African American, Latino, Holocaust, and Gender Studies, I'm blessed to continue to work that has been, when Andrew Nelson was talking about standing on the shoulders of greatness, I must acknowledge those who paved the way for me to even lead this work today. So I want to pay respect and homage to Mrs. Debbie Range, Margaret Newman, Dr. Marianne DuPont, and also Sybil Mitchell. For those are the ones who set the foundation of this work. As a school district, we still got a long way to go when it comes to really including our history, including our culture, and affirming black children, affirming the very humanity of black children. We still got a long ways to go. But we've made a little progress over some years. You must understand how institutions are operated and how they run, and how racism is something that's deeply entrenched within America's institutions, which includes our educational system. But we're constantly fighting and advocating on behalf of our people within the school district. And also, we're here really to celebrate just black excellence, right? Looking at black history and understanding that, yes, we're in Black History Month, and black history is something that also exists outside of February, right? And one of the things I always charge my audiences with when we come in, and whenever I speak, or even sometimes when I go out to schools and speak to our educational centers, is making sure that this pride, this zeal that we have during the month of February, that we maintain it.
Yeah.
Right? We can't be kind of like these momentary moments that we have this high level of consciousness that we kind of lose it. So next month was kind of keep it rolling. The month after that was keep it rolling. Right? And also, I'm just honored as well to be able to talk about our history and culture amongst our community. I get a lot of opportunities to go in and speak to schools and speak outside of the community, but to be able to engage with my people within my community, as a 5th generation native of Palm Beach County, just being able to just come home and be able to talk to the people that I know and love. So I just appreciate this opportunity. All right, so today, my presentation is kind of distorted here because of just the level of the projector, but I've done it and I'm just gonna kind of roll with it, right? Is we're talking about the beauty, brilliance, and the magic of black folks. All right? So what happens usually when we approach black history is that black history can be real perceived as terrible, right? It's awful, it's kind of traumatic, because sometimes we focus on the oppression, we focus on the slavery, we focus on racism, we focus on the repression, and sometimes we just focus on like the domestic terrorism that's been inflicted upon black people by white folks. And within that, sometimes we kind of miss out, right? We kind of miss out on the ingenuity, the creativity, the innovation, and just the brilliance and the overall magic it is to be black folks. Now, I'm not saying that we should not talk about those aspects because that's part of our experience, right? You know, that's why we got blues music, for example, right? Because that's what we have, that is part of the experience that we have, right? But sometimes when we focus too much on that, we kind of miss all the other aspects of our history, right? And one of the things that was mentioned is talking about talking about the development of Palm Beach County. You leave black folks out of it, right? You get an inaccurate history. Now, let's kind of take that on a little bigger scale, right? When you kind of remove black folks in the development of world civilization and world history, you have a complete inaccurate, almost non-void history that doesn't exist without our contributions. So I'm going to take that a step further. When we're talking about the development of Palm Beach County, the development of the state of Florida, the development of the United States, the development of the Western Hemisphere, the development of just human civilization, you have to center black folks as the most seminal position within that history. So today, I'm just going to kind of go over some examples and really scratch the surface and kind of open up our minds to take our history beyond just that narrow scope which we usually are shown throughout history of us being repressed and just that introduction of our history within our downtroddenness. Because what that does to our children as well is when you show us within that only light, within that single focus, it mitigates the agency and the power of black folks. And some of our children really don't understand who they fully are and the full potential and capacity that they have to be change makers within this world, right? So, our traditional view of black history is this, right? You open up any textbook of American history, world history, you see us and it's these kind of awkward jumps that they have through our history, right? They see us in the Middle Passage, and we jump to plantations in the South, and we're working on cotton plantations, etc. And then we kind of jump to Martin Luther King, right? We talk about Rosa Parks, we may throw some Harriet Tubman, a few Frederick Douglass mentions in there, and we just kind of jump into like 1954, right? So we have these awkward timelines that we usually do when we approach Black history. So what happens is it creates this perception that our history is not as dynamic as it actually is, right? Matter of fact, I just saw on Twitter, just yesterday, it was this protest, and this young lady was saying that Martin Luther King was the first black man to free slaves, right? Right, and I've worked in the classroom for 10 years, and it was like black people, like Martin Luther King freed slaves, right? It's because of these awkward jumps, right? And what also happens within that is when we just kind of jump around, it kind of misses out on the resistance that we had to the institution of slavery. It also kind of mitigates just how prosperous black folks were apart from white folks, right? And the things that we accomplished within our own schools, within our own communities before desegregation was right? And also in addition to, it doesn't talk about even our own civil rights organizations before the Montgomery bus boycott, etc. For example, the Acid Caliphate. The modern country that we know as Iraq was one of the largest and first known slave insurrections and slave rebellions. Right? There's not really a lot of discussion around that, but it takes place in our school. Matter of fact, if you just kind of scroll down, for example, the New York City slave conspiracy of 1741. Right? So sometimes we think slavery, we think just the South, right? You got to remember, at one point, our free labor built this country, right? The estimated value of enslaved Africans at one point was $3 billion, right? It's insane. So you got all of these slave insurrections. You got one called the Haitian Revolution, 1791, which was the most successful one. So by we have all of these places that are named and so forth for people who committed atrocities against us around us, right? But one of the things that we must understand also about history is that sometimes, it's like I said, we got these awkward jumps and we got these things that we missed out on. So we all know the Underground Railroad, right? And the whole objective of the Underground Railroad traditionally teaches us that a lot of enslaved Africans were trying to get north to secure freedom. The first Underground Railroad actually was coming south into Florida, right? Because Florida actually belonged to the Spanish at one point, and they actually welcomed any free runaways, right? Any runaways, and offered them freedom in exchange for converting to Catholicism and also military service. So they said, you can come to our territory in exchange for what? For if you protect it, military service. So of course, if you offer me freedom and you need to give me a gun and protect it, absolutely, I'm gonna do it. But what the Seminole Wars was really about, right? And a lot of people don't really frame it as a slave rebellion. Was really about, you're going to get a bunch of free black folks that have guns within proximity of slave states like Georgia and South Carolina. So it's under General Andrew Jackson, $20 bill, that he went in to pursue it so we can capture Florida, so we can bring these enslaved people back. That's what the Seminole Wars was all about, all three of them. Right? Second Seminole Wars, matter of fact, was the most expensive, costliest conflict against Native Americans in U.S. history. It was Black Seminoles, right? Because what happened is that a lot of these freedmen would come into Florida, and they would be absorbed within the Seminole tribes in Florida. That's where we get Black Seminoles all around us, right? The earliest known documented evidence of black folks and non-indigenous people right here in Palm Beach County actually were soldiers who were fighting in the Seminole Wars. Matter of fact, there was a battle that was fought right here at Fort Jupiter, right? If you ever go up US 1, the Jupiter Lighthouse, at the mouth of the Loxahatchee River, that was a battle, right? And I'm gonna kind of give you some local context here. So it was under General William Lauderdale, right, that was fighting against our people, right? And eventually, during that battle on Fort Jupiter, they end up dispersing and pushing the Black Seminoles further south into what we know as Broward County today. So what they did is that between Fort Jupiter, they built another fort down south, and they had to create a supply line between both forts, right? So they literally had military volunteers come in and build a trail from Jupiter to Broward County, known as Military Trail. Right? So whenever you go on a military trail, literally that's what it was. And remember, General William Lauderdale, new fort down south? Fort Lauderdale. Right? Anytime you see a city in South Florida with a fort, it was actually similar. It was forts fighting against us. Benjamin Pierce,
Okay.
Abraham Myers,
Wow.
William Worth,
Okay.
Worth Avenue, Lake Worth Lagoon. Right? And it was actually one of the wars when the Seminoles beat the crap out of the U.S. military, killed everybody except 3 of them. And one of the people that died was a guy named Francis Dade. Right? All around us. Also, you had other ones like Denmark Vesey, Nat Turner, the Baptist Wars, and so forth. Matter of fact, Tankey River Revolt in 1760 was the biggest shock to the British imperial system outside of the American Revolution when those enslaved Africans fought back on the island of Jamaica. Now, our influence here in America is unprecedented. Matter of fact, we are the most important segment, and I'm not saying this just because I'm black, right? I'm talking about pure historical fact. Between 1492 to 1776, 8 out of 10 people across the Atlantic Ocean and settled the Americas were black. 80% of the people, they weren't European. They were black, right? So when you talk about our influence in music, culinary, dance, art, literature, language, religious, and spiritual practice in the Western Hemisphere, it's all us. Matter of fact, when you talk about music, reggae, the dance hall, right? Calypso, salsa, rumba, samba, merengue, bachata, combo, reggaeton, hip hop, spirituals, gospel, jazz, blues, rock and roll, country. It's all African music. The foods we eat, right? Grain staples, right? Mofongo, jambalaya, gumbo, watermelon was introduced. Plantains were introduced by Africans. Yams, black-eyed peas, coffee, okra, collards, callaloo, pigeon peas and rice, stews, one-pot meal, soul food, rice and peas, Atkins saltfish, jerk, barbecue, black folks. Right? And what y'all missing out on this, right? And I'm not just kind of throwing facts of like black people that did the first thing, right? What you really need to kind of, when we think about inventors, especially during this time period, do you realize that some of these people were born into slavery, right? They came out of slavery, first generation, learning how to read and write, and look what they have done and accomplished. You know, it was a group of kids I was talking to at one of the schools that said, you know, Mr. Newell, everything that we've done as black folks has been amazing. But just imagine if we didn't have all the obstacles in front of us to accomplish more, what would we do? Right? As a matter of fact, during that time period, he actually created one of the most reliable vehicles of the time. He just couldn't. We always get caught up on Greenwood or Tulsa as the Black Wall Street. There was a bunch of them. It wasn't the only one. We know the Greenwood district of Tulsa was one of many. It had 108 black businesses. We also had one in Haiti region of in North Carolina and Durham, North Carolina. Haiti, not the country, but it was a neighborhood in Durham. Also, Jackson Ward, Virginia, which was known as the Black Wall Street of America, the Harlem of the South. It was home of this late black woman, Maggie L. Walker, who actually chartered and founded the first bank. She was the first black woman to charter a bank. And this happened in 1903. It was one generation removed from being free, from slavery. And look what we were doing, right? Right here in West Palm Beach, we got the Northwest District. Right here. Right today, a lot of people, I know what's the Northwest District. I say hooks and everybody, I know what you're talking about. For the Northwest District, we had our own physicians, we had our own doctors, we had our own businesses. The Sunset, which is a cotton club of the South. Right? There you go. There you go. There's a story also, and you can go to the home there, of James Jerome Johnson, Crockett Johnson. Right? The city of West Palm Beach almost went bankrupt in the late 20s. He loaned the city $50,000, which they never paid him back. to keep the city afloat. So we sitting here in West Palm, and it was at one point West Palm wouldn't be anything without us. But people got the nerves to dehumanize and marginalize us, right? Once again. Our contributions to science, technology, engineering, and math, this is like nothing. This is like scratching the surface once again, right? People like Benjamin Banneker, who was one of the surveyors of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Daniel Hale Williams III, the first successful urban open heart surgery, black man. Garrett Morgan, we out there avoiding all kinds of crazy accidents because we have stoplights. Granville Woods, he was the one who actually designed the telephone, sold his patent to Alexander Graham Bell, right? Louis Latimer, we got lights. We want Thomas Edison, who was his assistant. Louis Latimer that developed the 11th filament in the light bulb to keep it going. Richard Spikes, if any of us came in with an automatic transmission, you got a shift, you got direction, you got the shift, the gear shift, and directional signals, black man. Sister Carolyn Parker, right? Dayton Project, during World War II, developed the nuclear bomb, or what we know as nuclear energy, which is really the purpose of really developing and not destroy. That's just Americanism that destroys stuff. Frederick Jones, if we ever see portable refrigeration or trucks that transport cold goods, meaning perishable goods, Brother Frederick Jones. Charles Drew, when you're right past a blood bank, black man, once again, right? And it was them two, Frederick Jones and Charles Drew, that was responsible for us winning World War II. Because it was blood transfusion to save lives and so forth, and to transport food and supplies to Allied soldiers in Europe.
The question I have is, how do we solve not only the negative energy, but the psychological process that America does on a regular basis, like GP, dehumanization of us. Because you can educate people about our culture and all that kind of stuff. But if they automatically been programmed to shut that down and just look at us as less than human beings or dangerous, criminals, less than human beings, so none of that stuff will get through the programming. So the programming has to change. So as we go around and try to come up with solutions, that's one of the root causes of the pushback against anything we ever do. Like anytime we do things positively, it always gets shut down, or there's a pushback with the society to shut anything positive down. How do we deal with the programming of the society to always look at this less than human beings? Because once you can dehumanize a group of people, you can exterminate them. That's what happened in Nazi Germany. And Hitler himself said that he got all his genocidal things from studying American anti-black white supremacist tendencies. He got all that in it. So
the Nuremberg Law was a complete copycat of the American Law, right? Just like you said, absolutely. And right now, we're like really almost like in a climate of like what happened in Germany, right? Based on some of the legislation. Y'all, it's just realize what's going on. The further race-based humanitarian and other states are doing that. I know you can't talk about Black Wall Street, right, for example, in schools. I'm talking to teachers that all the time that our history is being erased. The State Bill 148 that's coming out right now is really endangering us having these conversations. But the answer to your question is re-education, right? And it's going to be through education, being able to share our experiences, being able to have our history taught in our schools and so forth. Because one of the benefits of learning Black history, it's not like it just benefits Black people, right? It's this concept known as target universalism. Target universalism is that I'm going to do this to improve your outcome as a Black child, but everybody around you is going to benefit from it, right? I was down at Oakland Stone High School maybe 2 years ago, right? I was on Black history, want to talk like this, and one little white boy in the back of the room, right? And he came up to me afterwards, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate this, I learned a lot from it. I appreciate it. After one, trying to get out of the classroom, he said, I'll tell you my story. He said, I'll tell you my story. He said, I come from North Florida, right? I said, oh, shit, boy, listen now. We family, right? And he said he was told he was superior in all black people. I thought I was superior to you, sir, right? He said, well, when I learned about black people in history, he said, there's no way I can think like that. Right? So it's our education. Learning about our stories is what is going to benefit, because what scared me is how many kids we miss. Right? What if this little kid was going to graduate and go become a police officer? Right? Or become a politician, become an educator, become a president of the United States like that, right? And perpetuate that thing. Right? So a lot of it, that's deprogramming that has to be done in our education system. And a lot of deprogramming for us, we have to save ourselves. And we have to start going back to some self-reliance. We need to become more engaged within our schools. And I know it's easy to say that engaged parents who have been historically marginalized and never get the platform to use their voice to say, oh, just engage black parents and so forth. But there's a process that we need to start within the community to really make sure that we protect and preserve our history and protect our community. And it's a complex answer. That's a part of it. You go to any Jewish synagogue, they teach their children the history of every Monday, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they teach their kids their history. And don't miss a beat. Until we bring that back to the community, it has to be in the church. This should be done there 365, not on February. You got to have things like this every week and bring the kids here and know about it. Do it here. We cannot sit back and depend on the school board and bring our history to our kids the way it should be, because they don't know it and they don't want to know it. It has to be a community effort, and we got to kick it off sooner or later. If not, we're going to be dead. Black folks need to stop talking about all that was the past and slavery and so forth. We will never let you forget about all of it. Never. And we should all make sure we have that control that narrative. And that's one of the things with black community members that we need to fight for, is that we have our spaces, right? Because we have Jewish unions, right, in some of our schools. Jewish unions, right? And one of the interesting things is, right, is that it would never let a black person preside over a Jewish union, right? We have black people with black sponsors in some of our schools, right? So making sure that we can control our narrative and create those liberated spaces, right? I think some things are liberated spaces in our schools and so forth that we are responsible for, so we can teach our history and affirm our children ourselves. So, go.
Thank you, Mr. Setting the way for a better future by Abigail Williams. During the Black Lives Matter movement, African Americans as well as many other races joined together. They felt the sacrifices their ancestors made weren't being recognized. They felt that what they had to go through was being forgotten. They knew their past, they knew what rights they had, and they knew what was happening wasn't okay, and that it wasn't justice. So they fought for what they knew was right. They protested it. Understanding past hardships and why they occur and what they can teach you not only benefits you for generations ahead. Knowing the importance of teamwork, having a strategy, and enacting it, and taking accountability for not only your faults, but the faults of others. These are all things that set way for a better future. To kick off, something it seems a lot of people have forgotten is that we got to the place we are today through teamwork. No one person woke up and changed history and put us on the path to where we are today. It took many gifted black men and women, and even a few white men and women. A part of teamwork is being each other's building blocks. A former player of the Roosevelt Devils basketball team, Ricardo Easley, said, "It's about bringing all of us together to keep this history alive." In other words, a lot of black boys and girls at Roosevelt today only focus on each other's faults. We need to go back to our roots and remember what we went through collectively as a people. We need to go back to our roots and remember that we had to stick together and support each other because everyone else was trying to put us down. We need to go back to our roots and remember that our ancestors fought for what we have today, and they definitely didn't fight for us to revert from what they fought for. We have to be each other's building blocks so it isn't easy to tear us down. Teamwork isn't just about being each other's building blocks, though. It's also about helping each other become better. During the Montgomery bus boycott, they all had to help each other in order to create a better future. If only a few people would have decided not to ride the bus and the majority still rode, transportation could still be segregated. We could still be segregated. Rosa Parks said, "I had no idea history was being made. I was just tired of giving up." Rosa Parks didn't know how big her not giving up for SEED would become. She did, however, know that her people needed help and that she wanted to help them. So she became the face of the Montgomery bus boycott nonviolent protest. Furthermore, a strategy is a very important part of life. This begs the question, what is a strategy? A strategy consists of a purpose. Knowing your purpose or what you're supposed to do in this beginning early in life lays out so much room to succeed. My teacher, Mr. Arnett, loves to say, no one wakes up wanting to fail. To elaborate, everyone wants to succeed. Everyone. It is a basic human urge to want to be successful. No one just decides one day that they don't want to amount to anything. Listening to the past and learning from it better prepares you for your present and future. You have to be prepared in order to succeed. Now that you know your purpose, a great strategy still consists of a plan to enact it. You have to walk through life with a plan. If not, what's the point? The former coach of the Roosevelt Devils said, "Win every game you play." To explain, this was the philosophy he told his team to go into every game with. Setting a goal and having a plan to complete that goal will make executing it much easier. So walking on the field or court with the mindset that you're going to win leaves no room for mights or maybes. Lastly, another thing kids have become accustomed to today is not taking accountability for their mistakes and the mistakes of others. In a group setting, you have to be a leader, but there may not be one. As a leader, it is your responsibility to make sure those around you know that making mistakes is okay as long as you take accountability. If you don't take accountability, you can't move forward. You can't share your mistakes with others and ensure they don't make the same ones. Let's use the Roosevelt Memorial Devils as an example. A speaker on a more than a game panel discussion said, "The season before you guys were 19-3. To go more into depth, they all took into account where they went wrong, and they found a way to improve and came back better next season and were 27-0. Another thing to take accountability for is the achievements as much as the faults. The Maroon Devils are considered to be one of the greatest teams in Palm Beach County history," says a speaker from the introduction to the More Than a Game panel video. They took great pride in this. They knew that their achievements were a product of all their hard work. Here is yet another thing we can learn from accountability: to take pride in our achievements and to better our failures and the failures of others. In conclusion, we can learn many things from our past failures and successes that can contribute greatly to our present and future success. Things like understanding to build each other up instead of breaking each other down, walking through life with a plan, and taking accountability for moments of failure and success. Have you ever heard of the saying, "You learn something new every day"? Some people don't learn something new every day, though. This is because in order to learn, you have to be ready to listen. Listen to when your parents are speaking, listen to when your grandparents are speaking, and listen to when your teachers are speaking. With age comes knowledge, and the knowledge of those before us can be beneficial to our future success. So let's all learn from our ancestors and set way for a better future.